right, so let's talk for a while about my adventures with Superman, and just letting
Sure.
you know we may get into a
Full spoilers.
yeah, like a sorry, but we have to.
Yeah.
It's DC. It's what we do when it comes to
Yeah.
DC content, right? Yeah. So I'll just more or less state what the show is about, and then I'll just share my thoughts, right? So yeah, what it's about, well, I should say before I forget, we actually covered the first two episodes of the season
Yeah.
already, because they dropped on the same night, I believe it was, yeah. Um, and at first, we were taken aback at the fact that even though this was an Adult Swim release, it skewed young. Like it just felt like it was just catering
I'll
to
say,
a much younger audience.
here's what I'll say about that, right? With a couple other episodes later down, I kind of understand why it's an adult swim. Because the show, it is do a little horniness ever so often.
I
Like,
know.
especially what's her name from Batman come through by, uh,
Oh, Vicky Vale, yes.
Vicky Vale, right? And like, what's going on here? Like, okay, all I'll say is I kind of understand why it's an adult swim. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, like, so basically, it is really more. I think the rating is TV PG, and it
right,
is right. But that's not to say that kids can't watch it and enjoy it, right?
right, right,
But
right,
I
right,
wouldn't
right,
say
right,
it's like
right,
a family show, right? So that's
right,
basically all I
right.
could say. So yeah, pretty much in a nutshell, it's the Superman story retool, but
Right.
it more centers on the relationship between Clark and Lois, and of course Jimmy Olsen, right? I mean, it's the
Yeah,
story that we've seen before, but it's just basically retooled with a more anime-esque art style, courtesy
yeah,
of Studio Mirror, right? Basically, with this season here, it's about Clark learning about his identity as well, more or less learning about who he is as Superman, right? Throughout the show, he learns a little bit more about his past. He learns something very dark and insidious, possibly
yep,
about his dad. And throughout the show, he also learns about his powers. So it's not like, automatically he learns X, Y, Z, right? So at first, he knows how to fly and whatnot, right? And he has his super speed. But, throughout the show, he will learn like super hearing. He will have
right,
the beams, right, come out of his eyes and whatnot, right?
yeah,
Even the X-ray vision he learns later on, right? But while all this is going on, yeah, I mean, Clark himself, sparks a really lovely relationship with Lois. And,
yeah,
Lois, of course, as we know from Superman law, is trying to figure out who Superman is, right? And we'll get to how that plays out in the spoiler section, right? Jimmy is clearly the third wheel in all of this, but he is actually given a really big role here. And I like how they actually frame him in this context where yeah he's into social media, right? He has this
right.
conspiracy theory YouTube channel, I mean, he has his followers he
They
calls
do
fire
they do
nerds,
something, Flame Bird, right? So Flame
flame
Bird
bird, sorry.
Flame Bird is a nice Superman deep cut. So if you know who Nightwing is or what Nightwing is, where the name comes from, you would understand where Flame Bird. You might understand where Flame Bird comes from as well, which I
Okay.
thought was kind of funny and clever.
All
Yeah,
right, all right. Well, I didn't know, right?
yeah,
While all this is going on now, we have this threat of like these how to say, boy, it's basically the early beginnings of Intergang, right? Where it just
right,
starts off with this character by the name of Livewire, and she and her team, well, they're just basically thieves, right? They just stealing military tech, and then they will
yeah,
oftentimes activate the military tech, and that's when Superman will step in and save the day. But then afterwards, you'll learn a little bit more about Task Force X, because you'll see we Gil Amanda Waller, show up as well
right.
too.
Come true. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we also see, well, the main villain, if you want to call him that, or the main antagonist, I should call him, called the General. We'll talk about him
Right.
later, right? So he is
Yeah.
like
Well,
one of the big
it was
leading
pretty obvious
figures.
who he was here.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. I'll talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And
We see Deathstroke
right,
started
right,
from
and you
episode one,
see a
right?
few
Yeah.
other like popular,
Lex Luthor.
superhero villains. Sorry, Superman
Yeah.
villains, like see Parasite, for example.
Right.
Heatwave has show up as well too. You know, um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just again just a retelling of the story that we know, but in a more upbeat sense, right? Which
It's
totally works.
well, what's kind of brilliant about the show is how reflexive it is.
Hmm.
It's incredibly reflexive. It borrows from other materials and does those things in really, really updated and modern ways. So first things first, it clearly, as I say, I made this joke when it first started, that it is one thing to dance on the Snyderverse grave. is another thing to stage a whole prom, right? And that's basically what this
Boy,
show kind of did, right? You're right. So that's one.
the show is so
But
anti-Snyderverse, boy.
yeah.
Is really admirable, boy.
But what they also do is that they surprisingly like bring in some like Spider-Verse stuff, right? So not just Snyderverse, but Spider-Verse stuff involving a certain character. And what they do with that, I thought was quite clever. Um, and then it also reflexive, given the nature of the story, it pulls from. I'm just going to straight up say it. It pulls from the Iron Giant. Like, okay, wow,
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And given if you know the Iron Giant was about and what that reference, like, okay, that's very self-reflexive. It's very reflexive in terms of like restarting the material and making it work. And yeah, overall, I really, really, really like the show. I like what it's going
Me
for,
too.
what it was doing, where they go with it, the actual how the information is presented and revealed for Clark is great. Like it changes up things in really smart ways. Speaking of Snyderverse, it does the thing that Zack Snyder kind of wanted to do. So one of the early things that Zack Snyder wanted to do was make everything Kryptonian, right? In
Yes.
some way,
Mm-hmm.
he was going to make everybody or everything was going to be derived from Krypton or Kryptonian powers. They do that. They take it and run with it, and this feels like like a slightly animated tweak to the live action show, which is clearly a bunch of ideas that they wanted to do, but they just don't trust Zack Snyder with it because like, oh, that's a good idea, but you gonna fuck it up. So they just take these ideas and make it work, and they run with it for what it is, and then they tell that story involving what we call Cadmus and Task Force X and Checkmate and in the narrative itself, and they spin it in, and it's really well cut together and put together for what it is. And it's a bunch of Superman deep cuts. That thing with Lois is great. Like what they do there, the Spider Verse part now is very clever because what they do, you notice what is the impetus for those Lois's existing. That Lois beat. That's
Oh,
a
yes,
great
yes, yes.
conceit.
Which you'll talk
Give it
about in the spoiler section, of course, right? But I know you're talking about.
right. But yeah, I just really like how if you understand Superman, you know Superman deep cut stuff, you know what to look for. But they make it work, and it's really Superman fans fixing thing. It really feels like a reflection, a blowback against Snyder cut stuff. But it's still really smart writing for what it is and great. There's one small nitpick I have with the show. They do it a couple times. It's characters moving super fast who aren't Superman. Couple of moments that make sense how your character reached there without nobody else knowing, given the geography of the situation.
Uh-huh.
Small nitpick. Lois did it a couple times, and I forget the little girl
Oh,
name. The little
I
girl
know
who
what you're talking about. I
right.
think it's in the episode where she's trying to look for Superman, right? Is that one?
Well, that one, but also in the first and the second episode they do that as well, and then in the final episode there's a final moment. Like, Lois not that fast. So like
Hmm.
it's cut badly given the geography of the scenario. That's it. Small nitpick. Whatever. That's what I get out of the way. But yeah, excellent show. I really like it. Mostly because of this great self-reflexivity. Very meta reflexivity, very meta textual, very, but also telling its own story in its own way and doing something really clever with it. And much Spider-Verse kind of set the template with that, right? And it borrows a little bit from that and it works. Given, as popular Superman is as a brand, you could get away with that. So, you could pull this off. But yeah, truly excellent show in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. I mean, I will be honest, right? The first two episodes, I was like, I don't know, this is a little too young for me.
Yeah.
But, it harkened back to, like late 90s Superman, which I absolutely enjoy as well. I could tell that they were trying to not so much fix, but more or less do in a way what Snyder tried to do with the Man of Steel film. You know what I mean? Like if it
Right.
had continued on and not taking itself so goddamn seriously, I could
Yeah.
tell that they were doing that. And yeah, I mean, just like you, I absolutely enjoy this too. For
Yeah.
one thing, the animation works as well. And the
Yeah.
voice acting, I must say, the voice acting is
Yes.
fantastic. Whether it's Jack Quaid
Yeah.
who plays
What's his name? Quaid. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Quaid is great as Superman. He nails it as Clark Kent. I love the character of Clark Kent. Well, I mean, you know the difference,
Yeah.
right? But I
Right.
like that here. It's not like he's naive for the sake of being naive, and I like that they frame Superman
Right.
as okay. Like I'm not just gonna go and punch people in the face
Well,
because I have to save people. And
that
there's a
part.
moment where, sorry to cut you. There's a moment where he was tempted to with a villain, but it's like
Yeah.
no, I have to save this
Yeah.
person because
No,
if
that
I just
part.
go into violent more if I just take this up a violent notch now, or if I take things up a notch and things get violent, yeah, that's gonna make the situation worse. So let me just focus. It's about saving an individual. Boom, I did
Yeah.
that.
That part feels like a complete middle finger to the Snyderverse stuff. Like, wow.
I
like
know,
they
right?
just went out of the way, calmly went out of the way to have him be very heavily driven by guilt.
Yes, yes.
There's a guy on TikTok. There's a guy on TikTok I was following, and he's like a massive Superman fan. Oh, what's this guy's name, boy? Black Nerd Rights or something like that. Look him up. You might find him. He's like a guy. He's in his 50s, I think, and he's just like a real Superman fan. And he will tell you it's almost as if they just watch this guy's TikTok and write the show almost when it comes to the characterization of Clark. But yeah, they make it work for what it is. It's really really smart, and it's just a complete references to Snyder stuff. It's like they borrow from this guy's material and it's his stuff and write this characterization of being driven by guilt. And they sell that message better than the Snyder stuff ever did, to be honest. But yeah, that part I really enjoyed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, totally agree with you, man. But yeah, going back to voice acting, I thought it was great though.
Yeah,
Especially from Jack Quaid and Alice Lee, who plays Lois Lane.
yeah,
Right? Actually, not familiar with Alice at all though, but I thought like just voice-wise, she was great though. With just the
yeah.
nuances in the voice, right? Um,
And she's a nice, interesting, unique Lois. She doesn't feel like the other
yes.
Loises, but she still feels like Lois. Like it's still
Yes.
Lois.
And we can talk
And
about
and
other
again,
Lewises in a bit.
and
We
they
can talk.
play with that. They play with that. That's why it
Yes.
works. They justify it and play with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. At first, I was a little iffy about Jimmy Olsen's representation, not just because he's
Right,
black, but
right,
is the sort of goofy, silly, oh my god kind of vibe. You know what I mean? He's also
right.
energetic when it comes to that. But how they use that to develop the character even further was great in my
What
opinion, right? And where it ends
what
though,
they
and
do at the
well, I
end?
should say
Yes.
the dog, like I was like, all right, I wish I was you right now to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
pull that off though. The supporting cast is great as well, right? And it was just
yeah,
great seeing, not so much cameos, but just the
yeah. They
characters that we
had
kind of know and love. Like case in point, Amanda Waller herself. I didn't know it was voiced by Deborah Wilson from
Okay,
TV. Remember
okay.
that? Yeah.
Right, nice one. No, but they
Slade.
do they do these the side people in the Daily Planet. What's his name, boy? The kind of asshole, the sports guy. He's like a common
Oh,
character in
all right.
it slipped my mind
I
right.
think it's Flip Johnson. I didn't
Right,
know who
yeah,
they were. It was him.
yeah, yeah.
It's him, Ronnie. I think that's his name,
Right,
and oh gosh, and Cat Grant. But I mean, I know Cat
right,
Grant
right,
through
right,
Supergirl, the TV show, but I
right,
didn't know the other
right,
two.
right.
But how they set up those two was great. There's a nice little
Yeah,
reveal with him and well, Flip,
and right.
sorry, and Jimmy. That totally works,
Yes,
right?
great
Um,
episode. Yeah,
action sequences, right? While the show is not
solid.
heavy on action, I thought that it was
Yeah,
solid, you know what I mean? I do like the music for this though, by the way, very, very rock
yeah.
centered, right? So when it gets to like those intense moments, you'll hear like the guitars and whatnot, like really,
Hmm.
really
Yeah,
menacing and whatnot, right? But when it's all, whimsical and whatnot, yeah, it sounds really bright, especially with the outro music. By the way, I love actually just as simple as it was though, the intro sequence, the intro title
yeah,
sequence. I felt like if we had that from like episode one, or that vibe with the show even more. But they wait till the third episode to drop it, and I was like, all right, yeah, I
yeah,
like this. This is simple. It's to the point.
yeah.
Very anime-esque if you really think about it and look at it.
Right.
Yeah, it works, right? Um, where it ends though had me like, well, we'll talk about this in the spoilers, right? Yeah, where it
Right.
ends though, it had me like, yeah, I kind of want a season
Well,
two like right now though. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. They're doing something interesting with that as a conceit, and I like where they're going with it potentially. Because I knew like it's not surprising. That's all I'll say. Because you hear a final line, it's like, all right, I know who that is.
Okay,
Cool, cool,
okay.
cool.
Well,
Uh,
that
right,
we had to talk about that, right? But last thing last
right.
though, right? What really really like warmed my heart though, I must say though, was the relationship between Lois and Clark though. Like
Yeah,
it was like
yeah,
genuinely beautiful though, I must say. And like we'll get to spoilers. Yeah, when like after like the I should say around the after the second half of the show, like when the second half kicks in, where
yeah.
their relationship developed even more. That really like surprised me, right? And I guess we might as well just start off of that, in terms of spoilers. Let me get into spoilatory. You've been warned, right? So first off,
Sure.
I love that the show didn't even have to wait till episode 10 for Lois to be like, oh shit, Clark is Superman. No, they wait. They,
Yeah.
they, they
Thank you.
drop that right in the middle.
They sorted
Right,
out one
episode
time.
5. Boom. I love
Yeah,
that. Um,
yeah,
and where it goes from there, I really, really dug as well. And it's just how it develops the relationship even more though. Even though I just have one gripe, this and I think this happens around another spoiler section moment that we'll get into with the Lewises. Yeah, she's talking about all the adventures we've been to together, but I don't know, it's just something about that line because like All they
Right.
like just kind of know each other, like like you now know the man is Superman, right? And you're acting as if a whole season passed, or you went through this, that, and the third.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like
Right. Right.
you don't know who he is, right? So don't we talk about you like like you know him for years, right? That's just a little
Right. Right.
minor
Right.
gripe, right? But yeah, where that develops from there, I really appreciate as well. I also love how they frame the whole aspect. Well, again, going back to Snyder, of the possibility of Superman being a weapon, right? You know, what I mean, well,
Right.
so a weapon
Right.
from
So the
Krypton basically to just wipe
yeah, they play
everybody out and
yeah
rebuild
they play that
Krypton.
in they play that in two ways, and the one is his own perspective of him not like piecing together his own memories, and then you learn with Lewis the reason why you meet there's an episode where with Mr. Spitlick, and
You
the
know,
Lewis
still to
you meet
this day, I can't pronounce that name, you know.
okay, so in the Superman animated series, they do a breakdown of it. Mix, yes, Spitlick. That's it.
I
Anyway,
think I remember that.
yeah, no, right. But yeah, they do that. It's a great little episode. But then he now comes into to kind of throw a little monkey wrench with their relationship about why does he probably shouldn't trust him. And yeah, why the Lewis's form is because it's almost every timeline in that group um is from Dark Timeline to Superman going rogue. And it's like, okay, that's a real clever, interesting way to play with that. Because
Yes,
now
yes.
you give Lois a reason to not entirely trust him, or at least to have a reason to not to trust him. And she still does, like ultimately, because like that you don't have to be that. That is not necessarily the necessary part. And what they do with it later, with knowing about with Clark himself and his own confidence in himself, they flip it on and play with it in smart ways. And the show moves at a decent pace with that. That is what I appreciate. That's what I
Yes,
appreciate.
agreed. And also
Yeah.
in that particular episode, though, points for the reference to the previous animated Superman series, right? Like there's
Yes.
like
Yeah. I did
this
know about
little
your.
brief little
Yeah.
sequence there, and you see like 40s, right? Not so much 50s, but
Yeah.
yeah, 40s
Hmm.
Superman. You saw
Right.
oh gosh,
The
well, you saw the
90s.
90s one, of course, and I
Yeah.
think there was
Yeah.
like, oh, there was one that where he was a crab, though. I feel like that,
Right.
if for some reason, is either like some, sorry, well, some attempt at like bizarre humor or some
Right.
deep cut that I
It's a deep
have no
cut.
idea
Again,
about.
they're doing the Spider-Verse thing. Look, Superman's a big enough franchise and long enough for you to get away with that stuff and do all of that referencing thing to get away with. So yeah, it's deep cuts.
Yeah.
They
Also,
do
by the way,
something.
just going back to voice acting again. The actor who plays that guy, Mr. What's right?
Yeah.
David Arrigo Jr. I thought that he was great though. Like just
Yeah.
in terms of
Hmm.
just getting the playful, scheming kind of mannerisms of that character. I thought that he nailed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, and then when they did the evil version as well of alternate Supermans going evil, they show a bunch of dark evil versions. So you see um Ultraman, I think we see Justice Lord Superman, and
Right.
then we see and we saw also Injustice Superman as well. Like, oh, yeah,
Right.
all the
That's what it
popular,
was. Yes.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all the popular evil guys too. So like, yeah, they make it work for what it is. So it's like I can't be mad at any of that.
Yeah. Few things for you though. Well, this is within the spoiler territory, right? Also kind of appreciate, for what it's worth, though, the LGBTQ representation here, right? So we
Okay,
had
I
episode
don't notice.
six with Monsieur Mala, right, which is a character that I know little to nothing about,
All
right? Right,
right.
and great,
Yeah. With
yeah.
right.
Right, the gorilla and
Right,
the robot, right?
yeah,
Because like I was
right. Yeah,
hearing, well, just they
I
talking to
forgot
each
about that.
other. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, I like that, I
yeah,
like that. And they had the flashback and whatnot, and this is the way how they talk to each other, the whole mon ami and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, I
yeah.
see, right? There's also a moment, I think it's in the two-parter, well, the second two-parter in the show, that will be Zero Day. That's where Superman was, trying to figure out how to do all this, saving people stuff, but is the damage that could happen as a result of that.
Yeah.
And early on, there was this girl who was looking for a mom, and then, well, we find that it's a same-sex couple. It's like, okay, that's really interesting.
Okay.
So
Again,
again, it's one of those blinking
it
and
was
missing moments, but
right.
I do
Me too.
like how
Yeah,
they work it into the story without like stopping to tell you, hey, she have
right,
two moms. You know what I mean? Like it works there.
right. Yeah.
On Facebook, I call this show Superman Homecoming because yeah, the
Yes,
moment when the general
that
step
is
in
straight up from
and
Homecoming.
right, and then ever so often, like early on, you'll hear like Lois talk about, yeah, my dad, and yeah,
Yeah,
he never
yeah,
really used to check up on me, and he never seen nothing, when I went daily plan, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, they're
yeah,
setting something up, right? And
yeah.
when the moment which he kind of drop it again, it's like, okay, they're gonna do the homecoming thing, and they wait
Yep.
till like the final episode, which is ironically
Yeah,
called Hearts of the Fathers, and they do the Spider-Man homecoming thing,
yeah, yeah.
where basically, for
Straight up.
those who don't know, it's like Lois invites her dad over for Thanksgiving dinner, and it just so happens to be the general that Superman is trying to
Right,
find, and who
General
well,
Sam Lane, yeah.
right, and who the general basically trying to kill. I like how they set that up too, right? Where it's like, look, years ago I deal with Amanda Waller, and
Right,
these
right,
idiots came and blew shit up. So it's like, yo, this guy have to die because this man gonna bring the end of the world,
right.
right? I love how like deep into two he is, right? Like Rel telling Lewis, no, like this guy is trouble and all that kind of stuff. And where
Yeah,
it stops off, I thought it was great. You know what I mean? With
yeah,
Amanda now controlling Task Force X and whatnot, right?
yeah,
Also, I didn't expect to see Parasite in this though, but how they work it into the story was great.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah.
that because I can't remember much of him from the 90s
Is that
show,
the
but
same character?
no,
Is that the same Parasite? Is that a different Parasite?
okay, that explains it because yeah, he is
Yeah,
he is sucking up more like electrical power and like what Superman
right.
has because I know from the 90s show it was all about like I don't know, I think it's just sucking up human power, if you
Yeah,
want to call it that.
it's the same.
It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
weird.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
so but I like how they work him into the story, and also going back to anime points to the kill, like well basically when he grows big, he's kaiju size and whatnot. Like I
Right,
wouldn't
right,
think
yeah.
about it like that. That with Superman like literally flying in the middle of him just to grab the human
Right.
inside of the body. That was badass in my opinion. That was really cool, right? Lastly, before we get to reading, right, where it ends, where you're seeing, well, basically you're seeing what I assume is, oh gosh, well, I assume in all this is a relation to Darkseid, right? So,
No, no.
okay, well, that's how this is,
Yeah.
how I see it, right? So, didn't expect to see Brainiac, right? So Brainiac talking to
Right,
this guy, this
right.
Kryptonian guy, right? But I was watching the symbol on top of his armor, whatever it is, right? It
Yeah.
did look a lot like what Darkseid has, right? So
Nah.
I
Yeah.
was again, this is how we're assuming here, right? So because
Yeah.
we did not see the guy who is talking, well, we it's clear that he is Kryptonian, right? What I am
He say an
assuming,
obvious line. He say one obvious line that
right?
you know who it is.
Well, Earth will soon kneel. So
Yep,
yes,
that's it. Yeah,
he
yeah,
is Zod. He is Zod, but
yep.
something
Very
inside
obvious.
him, telling him, I
You
feel
try to
somehow,
support
some
you.
way they gonna make him into a dark side, Like he just become
Well,
like he becomes so wrapped up in killing Clark or whatever that somehow he get warped and
no,
somehow
but
a la
I
Doomsday he becomes a dark side character.
okay. Well,
So that's
I know
that's
about
my
all of that. It's
assumption.
just like
Maybe I just overstretching
no, that's
things, but
not.
that's what I feel.
No, that's what Zod wanna do. That's it. Like then I don't mix about it. Like that's Zod arc.
I know, but
Uh,
like no. Well, here why here why I stated that, right? Why I thought so because of the planet itself and how it looked very much like oh gosh, I'm forgetting Darkseid's planet right now, but it looks
yeah,
just
Apocalypse.
like
Yeah.
it, right? Apocalypse with
No,
the fire
they
and
were
all that stuff
fighting.
now.
No, no, they make it where okay. So I hear what I think they're doing. This is what I think they're doing. So one big thing about Superman that was never really an answered question, and they address it, which is, hey, how come Kryptonians are all over the place?
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't they be like colonizing the galaxy wherever it is? And yeah, I think that is what's going on. It's just Zod colonizing the space now, or something along those lines. And um, they do just one small thing I appreciate too. He still don't understand Kryptonian. Like they didn't do the whole he automatically understand Kryptonian
Yes.
like universal translator thing. So obviously, um, Jor-El, well, that's the hologram is supposed to be Jor-El
Yeah.
presumably. Um, he's saying trying to tell him something important, so you don't understand the full context of what's going on now.
I love
Little
how they
things
do
like
that, by
that.
the way, where Jor-El is talking
Yes,
Kryptonian, but ever so often
right.
he was slipping a little bit of English,
My
like
son.
my son or something
Right,
like that. Yeah.
right, right. But yeah, that's where I think so. That's what I think they're doing with this. The whole Zod possibly being conqueror of the galaxy kind of thing. And because once you have a yellow sun, you should be able to go. You go in and Kryptonians will come and wash out everything. Now, that's the whole idea. That's always how I always interpreted these conceits now for what it was now. But yeah, I really enjoy this series. It's really smart, smarter than way smarter than I give it credit for. They're basically just building on things that people complain about for the last 10 years or so. Yeah, They make it work for what it was. And yeah, overall, just not like a masterpiece of a show, but just really conscientious, good storytelling, very self-reflective, um, very metatextual, but they wrap it all in together, and they clearly learn from the last few years of storytelling and evolve the story for what it was. Excellent, 9 out of 10 for me. I'm really excited for season 2.
All right, same here too, man. I'm actually glad that, and actually not surprised to see that you really enjoyed it that much too. And same here
Yeah,
too. Like, I didn't expect to really enjoy it that much. I just thought it was gonna be this sort of young version of it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not like the, well, I'm glad. I mean, we all glad it's not the edgy, dark, edgelordy kind of Snyderverse version of it, right?
right.
Um, yeah, I really dug how upbeat it was, right? It really
Yeah,
does feel like a breath of fresh air, right? As I say, very reflexive. Yes, it really does remind you about why Superman is such a lasting character, why he has stood the test of time, right? And it just sort of captured that so well with the dialogue, with the animation, with the cult, with the art style, and all that kind of stuff. It totally works, right? But just in closing, what I do like though is that it does not like dumb down the tense moments, the dark moments. But there's not a lot of it in this show here, right? But ever so often you remind you, yes, there's a price to pay for being the Man of Steel, right? Bad
yeah,
things could happen, but there's always hope. One way or the other, right? And I love that there are moments where all our heroes, well, the three leads themselves, find themselves at their lowest, and somehow they have to kind of pick each other back up, or they have support in each other to pick themselves back up, right? And yeah, this again, just reminding us why we just love Lois and Clark as a couple. Yeah, it works for me, right? So everything wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 to 5, man. This really surprised me. I didn't expect it to be that good. Like I say, when it wrapped up, I was like, yes, season 2, bring it on. I love where it stopped off. I still feel they're gonna try to bring in Darkseid somehow. I don't know, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, but I
imagine they're
really
doing
do
that
hope.
later, but that's clearly the teaser didn't hint at that at all. I didn't,
Okay.
you know.
Again, I was just watching the planet. Is the planet that threw me off it?
Okay, right.
That's why I kept thinking Darkseid, this and Apocalypse, that, right? But well,
Okay, no problem.
yeah. But yo, season 2, bring it on. I am ready. I can't wait to see the second season of this, though. But yeah, season 1
Yeah.
is solid. Definitely check it out.